Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Eating Peace this week. Long, long ago, decades ago, I sat in a meeting as a young woman that was a 12-step meeting. There was a man there who began to speak, and he looked so tight and so tense, and his shoulders were just like bricks. His body was barely moving, and he was super pale, and he looked so drawn and so exhausted. And what he shared was that he felt like killing himself every single day, and he had been sober and free of drugs for 7 years. I never forgot that man speaking. His voice was low. He was filled with suffering. And it suddenly broke this kind of idea that I had that if you follow like a plan of abstinence or sobriety or whatever that looks like, that doesn't automatically bring freedom and peace and joy into your life. That joy and love were maybe still uncertain for some people, and it almost didn't matter if they were staying in control. I mean, maybe it's not as bad if you don't also have this incredibly difficult compulsive behavior going on in your life at the same time. But interesting to think that if you only take that away, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to feel incredible and now life is free and beautiful from this point forward. It certainly wasn't the case with that man. And it opened up a door for me into understanding that deep work is required here. Something was going on. I never knew more about him. I didn't get to know him. I actually never saw him again. But I am very grateful that he spoke up the way he did. And I was so early in the process of, recovery and understanding about any kind of compulsion in human behavior and my behavior. So his willingness to share that, maybe his having to share it, just being desperate, had a great effect on me. So I have found, when I look back and I really think about off-balance eating, just the nuttiness and the craziness of eating, totally eating out of control, as we say, just, from one end of the city to the other, whatever we can get our hands on, stuffing it in, binge eating, or just graze eating, just constantly every little bit of time passing going by, you feel like eating another bite of something, kind of can't get your mind off of it. Or overeating at a simple meal, just noticing that you go outside of what your body really feels comfortable with. And anything that's off balance like that, anything that's disturbing us, having extra weight on our body. So noticing, am I going off somewhere here? I mean, sometimes it is interesting to even determine, is this extra weight or is it not? Because my early on entry into off-balance eating partially had to do with trying to be thinner than my natural weight was. I really wanted to look like the athletic, thin, lithe people in the world, not like myself, which was not really that kind of body intensely. Even though some might say, oh, but you look so normal weight, you look just like a regular person. I can hardly believe, that you would think you weren't in the more thin ideal. But I really didn't feel that way, especially being a cross-country runner and a gymnast. I definitely did not have that kind of body that seemed to match really well with those particular activities and trainings and competitions. So that kind of kicked off, something's wrong with me. I need to improve. I need to change. I need to be different. And then this deep, deep feeling of discouragement and doubt and pain about not being able to get there very easily. And that I had to limit what I was eating and restrict and control. So what I wanted, there's been sort of discussion lately about how we move or get into a deep transformational change, something where we become a person who no longer is concerned with food or eating. And I believe that's possible for anybody. Not everyone thinks that. Some people think that you need to be vigilant every day of your entire life, or else you're going to take that drink again. You're going to go use drugs. If you are walking down the street and you turn the corner the wrong way and there's a party happening there where everyone's using drugs and drinking and overeating, you're going to join right in. I just don't think that that's true. And it's okay if something feels very like you're being held, or like there's this, beautiful warm basket that you can relax in because you have a really strong structure. There is nothing wrong with that at all. That just today, don't drink. Today, don't smoke. Today, don't do your compulsive whatever behavior is. Just don't overeat. That's okay. I mean, my gosh, there's like practicing, learning a new way to be. Like you need to stay in your little nest sometimes, just like a little baby does, and grow and get used to your wings getting bigger. But I know there's a certain point when you can move into the world naturally and discover that you're safe and comfortable and you won't go tipping off the deep end. But you do need to learn some sort of inner sense of contact with life, or where something is stuck is, so that like that man had been able to, that I saw in that meeting so long ago, hold it together for 7 years, but he looked like he was miserable. So sometimes we find that when we take away some behavior that we've used to cope, like overeat frantically, or eat tons of sugar to get sweetness in our lives, or to do like crazy things with food or all other kinds of substances and processes, right? Spending, buying things, whatever. We all know what many of the things that people do, overworking even. So if you take that off, it's kind of like ripping off the Band-Aid and you've got this wound underneath, and it needs to be addressed, or it's going to be much easier if you do, with kindness and compassion, and to really see what is there. Where have I felt hurt in my life? Where have I felt powerless and betrayed? Who have I felt powerless in the presence of? Who's disturbed me and bothered me? It's almost easiest to do this with human people. We'll so want to do like question, self-inquiry on our thought, on food, and on our own behaviors, and on reaching for that thing. Nothing wrong with those. Those can be amazing to inquire into what is going on. But let's see if it wasn't that, if it wasn't the actual behavior that we need to be totally concerned with. We've been concerned with it already sometimes for years. This behavior of eating, starving, dieting, not dieting, all the thoughts and obsessive thinking about all of it. Let's just let it be there, and come over here and see, is there anything else that's bothered me that I felt great pain about in my life? Where have I been hurt? Where have I felt hurt? Where have I felt fear, betrayal, upset? What do I oppose? What do I not like about being alive? When did that first begin to happen? Early on, where did I experience that? These are deep things. It's like to find this and take a look. Where have I felt terror in my life? But I find that to look at these things, to look at these incidents and experiences and interactions that we've had, where we feel something's been very dangerous, or something scared us, or totally, crashed and broken us, that are more like about the human experience, beyond anything addictive. Maybe that blanket of what we do, at least I certainly found my behavior with food and eating, was like a strangely warm blanket that covered over other things that were really very painful under the surface. Feeling scared to be criticized and rejected and judged, feeling fear of lack of success, of failure, thinking I'm not going to make it in life, I'm not good enough, I need to do something special. These are sort of driving forces under the surface of this addictive blanket that kept me from looking at things that felt maybe even more painful initially, except for, oh my God, such a relief. And I find sometimes these things that have felt really, really painful, and like we've really felt powerless and hurt, often they go back all the way to childhood. It is very helpful to have a empathetic listener hearing what our experience is. Just being there with us, maybe even a group, so it doesn't feel like such a secret or we're stuffing it down, or pushing it under the carpet, pushing it into the closet and having to kind of like soothe ourselves with this, eating behavior or drinking behavior or drugging behavior or smoking behavior or overworking behavior. I find too that still the thoughts about, worry, I need to do something, I can't just sit still, or that I'm actively here in the world, interacting with whatever's going to happen today, and I have no idea what it is, no idea at all, that's underway with this great big unknown question mark, and sometimes still makes me nervous. Definitely, I still feel nervous, or anxious, or concerned, or like it's, something that the thoughts are there about it. But it's so wonderful to have the work, a deep self-inquiry. The question, is it true what I'm thinking? Can I share this? And now let's look and see how I've been run by this experience. Is it happening now? Can I notice how I'm safe in this moment? Who would I be without my story? That I've been permanently damaged and hurt, or that I really need to be comforted. From what? Let's look at from what. How can I live in a world where really troubling things have happened and remember them and be aware of them and still notice I might not have to act as if they are true now anymore. So I just find, you take off take out the behavior. Sometimes you're going to have stuff to deal with. There's going to be a lot of things under the rock, right? You're on a beach and you pick up a big rock and all these things are scurrying and wiggling all over the place. All the things you've ever had that you've dealt with in your life about living, about reality that haven't been seen in a way that you haven't wanted to see. And that's how I saw that man so long ago. It's like, wow, just because you stop being compulsive doesn't mean you're happy. There's some work to do. And I know all of us, we can roll up our sleeves and do it. It's the capacity to look deeply, to remember, to be aware, to sit with it, just one thought, one experience at a time. So it's okay to do that, to enter that and find support for it. In fact, it can be the most magnificent journey, very exciting, very inspiring, hard, kind of frightening, but oh my gosh, so fabulous. And you start to want to go through that journey and take a look at the things that feel difficult and that hurt in your life that have nothing to do with your compulsion for food and eating and your weight being off and all that. You actually feel interested. You get drawn like a magnet to take a look. So I know that their balance can be found with these thoughts that we have around the experiences that we've had in our past. And I know it's possible to heal them. And maybe you might not think, oh, I just love that happened. It was so great. But you might find appreciation for that you made it through and what you got from that experience. And you can't really see really find that appreciation unless you're looking closely. So just something that I invite today. You know, you're not supposed to be instantly free, happy, and loving, and it's just so wonderful, and you're thin now, and that's fabulous. Sometimes people get really anxious about being thin. They don't feel so comfortable for other reasons. Sometimes people feel really anxious about not having food and not eating. And it's been that way for an important reason, to honor it, have compassion. This may take a little time. You're just going to begin to look, but you can do it. Anyone can do it. All right. Take care. Lots of love, everybody.